5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to a live episode of Guns and Guitars. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before. So I'm glad that you guys came to hang out and watch. And if you guys have any knowledge that you can share while I'm doing this, I would greatly appreciate it. I, of course, am going to share with you what I know based on what I've learned so far. But I'm by no means an expert. I've actually never done this successfully yet. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to show you guys. Firstly, this is my pickup winder that I got from Sean at Scar My Guitar. And I've had to do some modifications to it because unfortunately he didn't send me the complete winder that I thought that I was getting, but I got most of the important parts. And so I'll kind of share with you the setup as I go through. But essentially, we have a motor mounted inside this box. We got a sensor for counting how many winds we have. We have a speed controller and a counter. And it's supposed to be sitting upright, but it's sitting sideways because one of the things I didn't get from him was a guide for my copper wire. So you can see it's very high tech. I shoved a screwdriver through the box, and I've got a couple of zip ties that I've tightened on there really tight that I can slide back and forth to adjust my guides, basically my limits for the traversing of the wire as it spins up on the pickup. So the pickup that we're going to be winding today is a pickup like this. In fact, actually, I'm going to move the camera so you can see better what I'm doing real quick. Get up closer. There we go. So this is the pickup that we are going to be winding today. Is that in the shot? Okay. And basically the reason why we're winding this pickup is because I bought this set of pickups. I actually bought a set of pickups that I loved so much, I bought a second set. I bought these to replace the pickups that were in my itty bitty behemoth. And because they're one solid rail and I had issues with the string spacing on that bass because it was a really narrow string spacing because it was such a tiny bass. And so I got these to replace it. And I love the tone so much that I bought a second set. Well, the story behind these is that they were extremely quiet pickups, much more quiet than I expected for single coils. And they were advertised as noiseless. And I was like, no way is there a humbucker wound up in there. So I had to see for myself if there was a humbucker wound up in there. And so I took it apart. And as I was taking it apart, I destroyed the pickup on accident. I cut through the coil and then I wasn't getting a resistance reading from it. And so I destroyed the pickup. So I ended up taking the whole thing apart. It was definitely not a humbucker, by the way. It was just shielded really well. And I think what they meant by noiseless was the two together are reverse wound, reverse polarity, like any jazz pickup. And so together, when they're used together, they are noise canceling or hum canceling. But one in and of itself, just a standard single coil pickup. And so I learned that it wasn't a noiseless pickup, but I also now have to repair it. And so this is a perfect opportunity for me to test out this new pickup winding machine. And so just so you guys know the makeup of this pickup, essentially, we have this pickup, we have this bobbin, we have this metal slug that goes in the middle. Try to pull that out real quick so you guys can see. I'm not sure what this is made out of. It's just a bar stock. Looks like maybe just polished steel or something. I don't know. And then we have a ceramic magnet that's going to go on the back like that. I labeled the back so I can make sure that I have the correct polarity so that's reversed from this one. And then the coil will be wrapped around and then that just drops in there like that. So you can see that's how this one looks. And then they just packed it in with some hot glue to protect it and keep it from moving around and stuff. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I don't need the magnet yet. Go ahead and pop my bobbin back out. I did some test runs with this machine when I first got it, and I already learned some lessons, and I was finally able to successfully get 1,000 winds on the bobbin, and that's where I stopped because I wanted to check and see what the resistance was going to be on this after 1,000 winds, so I had kind of a ballpark of what I was aiming for. And so after 1,000 winds, I got to about 9K resistance. No, sorry, 0.9K resistance, so nearly 1K resistance. So this one is the neck pickup and it measures 6.2. This one I'm going to try to aim for around 7K. So high sixes will be okay, low sevens will be okay. Even if I get up to 8, that'll be fine. So I'm guessing probably about 7,000, maybe 8,000 winds on this thing. I know that winds are not proportional like that. So, as the coil gets bigger, each wind is gonna have more copper, and so the resistance will go up. And so I'm thinking 7,000 winds will probably be perfect. So that's what we're gonna aim for. And so super high-tech stuff going on here. I don't know if you can see, but this is gonna be my copper coil holder. And as you can see, I just drilled a hole in this piece of wood, and I just shoved a screwdriver through it, same as I have right here. So that's going to hold our copper so that as it's traversing, I can kind of just hold it right here and it'll just come off of that coil without any resistance. That's one thing that I learned is I thought that I could just have this spool on like a wheel, almost like a fishing reel, and that it would unwind, but that was too much resistance and the copper kept breaking. So we can't do it that way. So that's a lesson I already learned. Another lesson that I learned just last night that I haven't tried is that when I took this apart, I couldn't figure out how the leads were connected. And so I thought that I was just supposed to tie it onto the end of the bobbin and then solder my leads on when the bobbin was done winding. But I found out last night watching some videos that I think I'm supposed to feed my wire through there and then solder it onto the copper, and then put a little piece of tape and then just wind it around that little length of wire. So that's what I'm gonna try today, and hopefully that works. So, and again, if you guys got any tips, if you've done this before, feel free to let me know in the comments. Are people commenting, babe? Not a whole lot of comments. It is a Friday. I don't generally. What? Do I need a cough drop? I don't have a cough drop. All right. Here.
Never done it, so I have no comments. Tried it once so far, but
so somebody tried it once and it failed. Who was that?
And that was Baragan. And then Davey Welch said never done it, so I have no comments.
Okay. Well, thanks for your input, guys. I appreciate it.
Just hoping you do it perfectly so I can copy your technique.
All right. So the trick is going to be getting this first little bit soldered on there. I think my soldering iron is hot enough. Yep, definitely hot enough. All right. That on there? I think so. All right, let that cool off, and then we'll tape that sucker down. Should use some scissors for this because we got to cut small pieces. The one tool I didn't have out and ready was the scissors. All right. Okay. Let me take this down in here. Right there, like this. I guess I'm not really doing this where you can see. Bring it up here. You can see I'm taping it down. That's also insulating where that little bit of wire connects. And so I might do another piece of tape or two just to hold that wire in place so it doesn't move around while we're spinning. Don't want to add too much depth because I need room for that coil to wind on this bobbin. And I do want to try to fit 7,000 turns on there.
Asaph said you can tape only the copper and do the soldering after you wound them.
Yes, Asaph, you are correct. For certain bobbins, you just tie it up. Somebody's coming in to the garage because I share this garage with another business. And that's why I usually do my live streams after 5 o'clock if possible. But today we're doing it at 5. right. That should be a good start, I think. Anyway, back to what Asaph was saying. Yes, you can start. Some bobbins allow you to have little eyelets that you can tie your copper around to start it, and then you wind your pickup, and then you tie your finish to the other eyelet, and then you solder your leads on afterwards. That is not how this bobbin is. This bobbin does not allow for that. So this is the winding wing, I guess. And I drilled a little hole so I can feed that little lead through. And so, oh, I forgot my double stick tape. I do not see. Uh-oh. Something. My double stick tape fell off of my toolbox and rolled underneath my toolbox. I thought I felt something hit my foot earlier today when I was working.
Mark Gallacher says, can you tell me where you bought the original pickups from?
I bought the original pickups from a seller on eBay called Guitar Madness, and he just sells kind of like Artec, like rebranded Artec, kind of like a GFS. Anyway, his brand is Guitar Madness. And yeah, these pickups are great. They sound an awful lot like Bartolini pickups, believe it or not. And I know Bartolini pickups use a similar composition. They use a large slug, a ceramic magnet. And so it doesn't surprise me that these sound like those. It's one of the reasons why I liked them. And I think it's like 25 bucks for the set. Super cheap, which is why I was like, you know, even if I destroy it taking it apart, for 25 bucks, it's worth it to learn. And so it also affords me the opportunity to try this out. So this is going to feed through here. And I got my double stick tape. I'm going to go right on here like this.
What resistance are you shooting for?
So the resistance I'm shooting for around 7K. This is the bridge pickup. The neck pickup was wound to 6.2. And so I think 7K will balance nicely. But anywhere, I'll be happy anywhere between the high 6s and low 8s. And we're gonna aim for about 7,000 winds. All right, so I got that. Now I'm gonna slide this. I'm trying to remember which way does this spin. Okay, so it spins around. So I want my copper to go over that. So this slide on here like that. Oh, whoops! Before I do that, I want to tape this down on this side. I think this masking tape should be strong enough to hold it in place, I hope. They just left that garage door open, walked away.
Roman.
Babers. Killing me. You don't know what to do? Oh yeah, just leave it, I guess. If anybody walks by, we'll just listen to them. All right. Now that I have that secure, because what I don't want is for that thing to start whipping around and then break the copper, you know, once we get around 5,000 winds. That'd be the worst time for that to happen. So go ahead and do that. Got a little set screw here to tighten this up. Which, there we go. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do a few turns by hand real quick, just to make sure that my limits are still set properly. And I believe it's going to spin. Oh, I take this the wrong direction. I don't think it matters. I'll just go this way. So the high limit looks like it's winding right around the edge. So that looks good. So let's check out the low limit. And again, I'm by no means an expert at winding pickups, so I'm just really guessing here on level of like tension and level of scatter involved. Oh, I should have turned on my counter. So I don't know how many wines we put on there, but my guess is probably about 10. Anyway, but it's good to know. What are you laughing at?
I'm just thinking with
I don't know. Is the counter in view of the camera?
yeah.
It is? Okay, so you can see it counting up. All right.
I don't know about that.
Seems like I don't know if my low limit, I could probably move, and maybe I will after we wind it up a bit. But I think it's also because I have a lump there from my wire that I soldered in.
ESAP says try making sure your width limiter zip ties are on the same width of the bobbin so you won't go too far and tear the wire.
That's exactly what I'm testing right now, ASAP. Thank you. I appreciate that tip. But yes, that's what I'm checking. It looks like my limits are about perfect. Looks like it'll allow me to wind all the way to the end of the bobbin without getting caught on the end of the bobbin, which is what I'm going for. All right.
Tim says gotta go for 8,008 turns.
8,008 turns for Tim. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Tim did some kind of crazy math right now to find out exactly how many winds I need to meet my 7K resistance. But I didn't tell him what gauge of wire I'm using, so I don't think that he could have actually figured that out. I don't think he also knows the exact measurements of this bobbin either. So
ASAP says the lump is great. It'll create scatter.
yes. Thanks, ASAP. I appreciate. ASAP, have you wound pickups before? ASAP is my buddy in Israel. He's been helping me translate Hebrew because I've been trying to come up with a good name for my guitar company. And basically, we find out that words that I think mean stuff don't actually mean what I think it means.
Tim said, nah, it's just because the counter is upside down, it will spell something.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Tim.
Tim.
What kind of motor does the winder use? I know you said you bought it, but it seems like it would be a fairly simple homemade device.
It is. It's an extremely simple homemade device. This is just a 12-volt DC high torque motor. Or sorry, high torque, low RPM motor. I think it's 1,000 RPM max on this one, if I recall correctly from the link that Sean sent me. Anyway, so now we've got 60 something winds on there. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn the machine on.
We're just going to go nice and slow. Not with his own hands, but over people's shoulders.
Okay. So ASAP has watched some pickups being wound. So I'm just going slow at first to get a feel for it. I think we're probably good to speed it up a little bit. The cool thing about this motor is that it doesn't go so fast that the counter can't keep up. So when I run this thing on full speed, I tested, I ran it on full speed for like 40 turns. And then I stopped and then I unwound the pickup and it was pretty much spot on. So the wind counter, even at full speed, is really accurate. So I know a lot of people build these things and they get really fast motors and the counters can't keep up with it. They start at some point they start counting like every turn and a half or every other turn or something like that.
Are you winding it counterclockwise?
I am winding it, yes, counterclockwise. It doesn't, this is something that I learned. I thought that snap. Shoot. We broke our wire. Question is, can you solder it and keep going? It's only 268 turns. Gosh darn it. I wonder what broke it. I don't know what broke it. All right. Well, now you guys get to watch me unwind a pickup. Gosh darn it. I'm really bummed about that. This live stream might end up being a fail. That's
No,
gonna
you
be the
can't
one.
solder it and keep going.
That's what I thought. Can't solder it and keep going. All right. Needs to be one continuous copper piece. Where is my Allen wrench? There it is. There we go. So, what was the question? I was in the middle of answering a question.
You're talking about counterclockwise.
Oh, yeah.
Clockwise.
Thank you. No, I learned that because I know that you need reverse wound, reverse polarity in order to get hum canceling. And so I thought that you had to have a pickup winder that goes both directions, but that's actually not true. Most professional ones do go both directions. I don't understand why. But all that means is that you can wind them both clockwise, and then your start just becomes your finish, and your finish becomes your start on your second coil. And that reverses the direction of the copper. And so that's all you got to do is swap your start and finish leads.
Instead, is it your zip ties for the side limits? Are they too sharp?
Tim, they could be, but like I said, I wound successfully 1,000 winds on full speed the other night, and I didn't have that issue. But a lot has changed since then. So what it could be is my limits might not be in the same spot that they were before.
Isaf said, "How's finger skin? We play bass, bro. Oil up those thumbs a bit."
Okay, that could be it. I need to lubricate my fingers. Could have gotten caught on my finger skin, my calluses. All right, come on. This knife is getting really dull because I've been cutting a lot of copper wire lately.
He said, or use gloves.
Or use gloves. I do have gloves. Maybe that's a good idea. I'm not sure if I have any like super soft like cotton or latex gloves. I just have work gloves. There we go. Well, we made it to 300 lines. All right, let's throw this.
Said, Nefer Michael said, I have a bobbin winder about as primitive as yours. Don't let any slack get in your line. Breaks every time.
Don't let any slack get in the line. Good to know.
When I was making mine, I barely held on to the wire, lightest touch possible.
Lightest touch possible. Okay, but that's wouldn't that be more slack? I was thinking that would mean you'd want less. You'd want more tension to create less slack, right?
There's two different people. So.
Okay. So I'm getting conflicting information here. All right, let's try this again.
Asaf said the latex cheap gloves.
Okay, I don't have any cheap latex gloves, unfortunately.
David said maybe 2 polished washers instead of zip ties.
Oh, I think I know. Well, no, that it's not where it broke, but I noticed that my wire was underneath the spool. I wonder if that had something to do with it. All right. So
Asaf said the spin will tighten the wire. Don't hold it too hard.
Spin will tighten the wire. Don't hold it too hard.
Also check to see if there are any burrs on the bobbin.
I did check for burrs right before this live stream, and I touched some of them up with fine sandpaper. But that doesn't mean that there aren't burrs. Oh, darn it. This is the part that I did not want you guys to have to watch. Me soldering this up again. Turn the magnet upside down.
Asaf said you can always turn your magnet upside down.
Well, turning your magnet upside down is what your reverse polarity that you need. Yeah, so you do need to have one that's upside down from the other. One needs to be north side up and one needs to be south side up.
I don't know if he was answering that to your counterclockwise or clockwise thing. I don't know.
Maybe. It's possible. All right. Well, now that I remember which way my winder is spinning, I'm going to take my lead the other direction. And that should maybe help a little bit.
You could try putting a piece of tape on the ties. Maybe the plastic's edge is cutting.
It is possible that the plastic's edge is cutting the wire. But we only had one failed attempt here, so if it keeps happening, then we'll reevaluate. I'm gonna get a new piece of tape. The other night when I was playing with this, I had about 5 failed attempts before I had a successful one. So, which I think I had figured out what was causing those. I just don't know what's causing this one, or if anything caused it. It could have been just me holding the thing too tight. It could also be my inability to multitask. I was trying to answer a question. So I think that probably didn't help.
Well, never call Michael. Because I failed several times before I made my first one.
I have a feeling that's what this process is going to be like, especially using such a primitive setup. There's a lot of variables that aren't controlled as well, I think. Me too.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I can try shutting it.
No, like you said, it's going to bounce back up. Babe, I'm going to need you to tell me too when we get close to our time limit, because
Now we're at
this
5:28.
This is a pretty long process already.
Ah.
If I have to keep screwing up. Someone is coming in again. I should have put a sign on that garage door.
Well, they can't help it. They have to come in and
That's
out
true.
of business.
Where did my double stick?
Matt Bob right here says that they've seen guys run the wire through a pair of cymbal felts with washers on the outside of the felt, and you can adjust the two together to get the right tension.
Yeah, Fat Bob, you're speaking my language, because I am going to do that. I have an idea of how to build an auto traverse, an auto tensioner, and not what you're talking about is exactly how I planned to do the auto tensioning on it. And I have an idea of how to rig up basically the same 12-volt DC motor that's here, rig up a second one to be my auto traverse. And then, in theory, I could time how long it takes to get a certain number of winds and then set them up on a timer and just start it and walk away, and then it should stop with it perfectly traversed and perfectly wound. Be basically like having a CNC pickup winder. But that's all in theory. First, I got to make sure that this thing is actually going to wind pickups. Actually, I'm going to need to put a piece of tape here, because I could just set it to wind and then I walk away and I come back later to a broken piece of wire. That's not helpful.
Apparently you're in good company 'cause everyone says that this is so hard.
Well, good. Maybe this is exactly the push that I need to not get into pickup winding. Because I've been putting off getting into pickup winding just because I know it's a rabbit hole that I could seriously disappear in. There's so many levels of complexity to it to just try to get it that perfect tone, and it's a world that I could easily get lost in. And so I did move this.
ASAP said instead of a timer, you can make a stopper counter. Set the number of winds and leave, but you'll need something to jiggle it to create the scatter.
Yes, which I have something that's not going to jiggle, but would move back and forth at whatever rate I set it to move back and forth at. All right, so now we're going to try this again. We're hung up on something here. Yeah, I think maybe this was the problem. It looks like it got hung up on my spool holder. I'm going to put a little spacer behind it, see if that helps. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Okay. Possible that I let too much slack behind the scatter. Oh gosh. And this is like human hair, thin thickness of a human hair. And it wants to go behind the spool, and I kind of wonder if that's what happened. If it just started whipping behind me. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop it there for a second.
5:33.
5:33. Oh, we're way over time. Well, if it breaks again, we're done. But I'm gonna see if I have like a cotton glove or something I can wear. That might help. Well, maybe if I wear.
I don't know about cotton.
I can wear this one backwards. You think cotton's gonna get caught?
Yeah. If it's as fine as hair, then yeah.
All right. I do have a little bit of oil though. Yep. All right. Got a little bit of silicone oil in my hands. I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit on the edges of my bottom there as well, just in case. All right. Let's try this again.
Then shouldn't you hold the spindle a different way?
The spindle? What spindle? The spindle of.
Just repeating questions
Yeah,
over here, okay?
the spindle of copper. The I don't know if that's called a spindle. I'm not sure what it's called.
Dare Guitar says he's new to the pickup game, but a bit of corn flour between your fingers will let it run through a bit smoother.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible that could be the issue that we're having, was that it just got caught on my skin. So I'm just using like hardly any tension this time.
Tim said, now I see the problem. Your winder is right-handed.
Yes, my winder is right-handed. Shoot. I felt at that time it got hung up on this. So I need to come up with a new system for this, unfortunately. All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining me. Thanks for all the helpful tips you gave me. I'm going to have to practice this some more, and we'll try it again another time. Maybe I'll successfully wind a pickup or two before our next live stream of me winding pickups. What a bummer. Only made it to 123, but yeah, it definitely, what I've noticed is that the copper, as it gets closer to the bottom of the spool, it gets hung up here. So I need to have, I think, a longer rod and a spacer to hold it up so it doesn't get pinched between the spool and the wood right there, because that's what's happening for sure. If anybody has any helpful tips on how I can set up this so that it will freely give me wire without getting hung up, feel free to let me know. That's one of the things that has been really frustrating actually for me, is that I watched a ton of videos on winding pickups, and nowhere in any of the camera angles is how you're supposed to have this spool set up. They only ever show the pickup wire going through your fingers and over across this thing and onto the bobbin. Nobody ever shows the actual spool of copper. So if you guys have any tips of how to set that up, obviously you can probably tell in my voice that I'm a little bit frustrated now. And it's because my setup is so, I mean, look at it. It's very, very cheap. And I think I mentioned earlier, I originally had it set up where this thing, I was using this same screwdriver. The box that the spool came through, I had set up like this, but just the resistance of this thing spinning on the screwdriver was too much and enough for the wire to break. And so that isn't going to work. And I have a feeling that any vertical system that I do that's the same thing where this thing can spin is again going to have too much resistance and it's going to break. So I just don't know how to set this thing up so that the copper will come off it freely. So if you guys got any tips, feel free to let me know. And thanks for joining, and I will see you guys next week.